Good morning. My name is Jonathan Blands. In the last 10 years, I've had the pleasure of serving people in Jackson County as they're elected. Jackson County is a small rural jurisdiction in southeast Ohio, 32,000 people or so. Being in a very small office, I've had the opportunity to really see what's happening in our community. I've witnessed the rise of prescription drug abuse and also the increase in technology and social media that has impacted law enforcement investigations. We're being crushed by prescription drug abuse. OxyContin, Percocet, morphine. Some of our younger people we're seeing lives ruined every day. We're also critically underfunded in the area of law enforcement. Our sheriff's department, our local police departments. We have a couple of levies on the ballot this year. One failed in the spring. Our sheriff's department levies failed in the spring. We don't have local resources to do a lot of things that need done. Drug analysis, polygraph, ballistics, and DNA. So we rely on BCI&I, which for a small county is a tremendous asset if it's run well. And I agree with Aaron Haslam, Dave Landefeld. I don't think you're going to hear anybody today say that the personnel at BCI are not top-notch. They're outstanding. They're exceptionally well trained and they do good work. The problem is the resource is not being used effectively. We talked about prescription drugs and drug testing. I'm in the same boat as Aaron and Dave. We have to let offenders out while we wait for drug test results. Now, the time has become shorter in some of these test results, and that's a result of outsourcing. The Attorney General's office has outsourced drug testing to at least one lab in Ohio. I've seen them come in. It's Hamilton County. Now, it's well and good. It gets outsourced, I get a report. The problem is that the contract does not require that analyst to come, appear, and testify. The accused has a right to have the analyst testify, to demand that they appear. If that happens, in a case that Hamilton County has been involved in this outsourcing, I have to contact BCI&I. I have to find the officer and the agency who made the arrest to have that same officer take that same evidence to the same place he turned it in at BCI initially, to have the same analysis done by a different person. It's a duplication of effort. It's not an effective use of resources. It's not an effective use of money. By outsourcing to Hamilton County, sure, some cases are moving. But when we're put in a pinch and we need someone to testify, it falls back on the prosecutor to make sure that we basically do the same thing all over again, duplicate effort and duplicate state dollars. The second thing I've seen is this rise in technology and social media. We're all more connected. Smartphones, iPhones, Blackberries, computers, email, internet. In the past 10 years, all of that has absolutely boomed. And BCI&I is an important resource, a state crime lab, for us when it comes to analyzing computers and social media. In a child pornography case, you'll often see computer used. A forensic analysis is necessary. You have to have someone who's qualified to take that computer, to review what's on it, to track down when it was accessed, how it was accessed, where it came from, to create the line, to create the link to that offender. We rely on BCI to do that. It's not just child porn cases, it's the importuning cases, it's the traveler cases. It's the case where you have an adult soliciting a minor by means of the internet or via text messaging to get involved in a sexual relationship with them. The type of analysis we need is something we can't do. We have to rely on BCI. BCI has some wonderful, exceptional, and outstanding people that I can't say enough good about doing that kind of work. The problem is they're utterly overwhelmed. We send the computers off, they're going to do their best, but they just can't get to it. There's a huge backlog. We'll wait a year. Sometimes we don't hear anything at all. Unfortunately, I've all but given up on the idea of having a computer available as evidence in these cases in the short term. I can't lock somebody up thinking I might have that result back in the 90 days required by the speedy trial statute. I have to wait. I have to wait, and I have to wait. The victim has to wait, and the community has to wait while that analysis is being done. Not to be glib, but in all truthfulness, the crime lab and the computer section is so overworked and understaffed that Sometimes I feel like I might as well be throwing the computer into a black hole and waiting for results as waiting for BCI. They're good people. They're excellent, excellent employees. You're not going to hear anybody here say otherwise. But the resource that they are isn't available to us in a timely fashion. It's not being well used. And that, too, will have prosecutors into my office and the people in my county is key. Turn it over to Steve Shoemaker, prosecutor from Clark County.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Shoemaker. I'm the Clark County Prosecuting Attorney. I joined the Clark County Prosecutor's Office as an intern in 1976, became an assistant prosecutor in 1978, and the elected prosecutor in 1985. I have, since being sworn into the bar, these last 32 years, worked with numerous scientists, agents, polygraph examiners from BCI, and I've got many, many fond memories, and those folks are first rate. As has been stated here, they are overwhelmed. And one of the things that you need to realize about drug offenses, when you have a drug offender, oftentimes that drug offender is often going to commit property crimes or violent crimes. Your typical property offender may commit 3 B&Es a night, maybe more, every day in order to feed that habit. And when there's delays in those kind of cases, your property crime rate index in your community suffers right now. And some folks in the popular thought is, well, why should property crimes be a priority when we should be concentrating on violent crimes? But it's all related. When an individual's house is burglarized because that drug test is not out, it's not back, and law enforcement couldn't intervene, that creates another real victim. And every prosecutor here, we deal with people. On a day-to-day basis, we deal with victims. We talk to them, we deal with the police officers, we've got to understand their problems. The DNA section. Obviously, the way they must go at this point, they must prioritize their cases. So if you've got a case on a B&E, or if you've got a case on a theft, but that case cannot be processed quickly, how many more victims are going to occur before that test can be done, before law enforcement can intervene? And that's not what the people from BCI want. You're not going to find a better scientist on DNA than Dr. Elizabeth Benzinger over at BCI. I'm sure that's not what she wants. That's not what any analyst wants. I just tried a capital case, just got done last week, and we had numerous scientists from BCI on that witness stand, and they did an excellent job, from firearms to DNA to trace evidence. And those folks, they need help. And that's primarily why I'm here today. They need the help because they want to be able to do the job properly. And the volume is such that it is overwhelming. Another example that I would like to speak to, over the years, I've worked with a number of polygraph examiners through BCI. And some folks say, well, the polygraph, why do we worry about polygraph? Oftentimes it's not even admissible in court. But the bottom line is, if you work with investigators on the street, that is a tool that they use. That is a tool that prosecutors sometimes use. And as I often tell my investigators, in investigations, there is a window of opportunity. And that window is closing on you. And if you don't get the proper investigative things done, early enough done, that opportunity is gone. And the polygraph examiner over at the London office, she does an incredible job. And she tries to work cases in whenever she can work it in. But the bottom line is, she is very, very heavily scheduled. 15 years ago, I had 2 polygraph operators over there that I could work with, and they would try to schedule in anything at any time. Now we have 1. And law enforcement needs that. The law enforcement agencies in our region need that polygraph examiner, and they need to be able to get in quickly. And Miss Irwin does everything she can possibly do to do that, but sometimes the scheduling is just overwhelming. And what this all comes down to me, and I think to many prosecutors, is this is a matter of priorities. And there's nothing more important that the Attorney General's office can do for prosecutors, for police officers, and most importantly for citizens, than to be able to meet those scientific tests that are so necessary to help establish the truth. And it's never been more important. It's always been important. It's never been more important today. I can't tell you how much time I just spent in that capital case talking to jurors about the CSI effect. Because today, those jurors expect, even on a B&E case, those jurors expect that you make the effort on DNA. They expect that you make the effort on any sort of trace evidence. It's what the public expects. It's what the lab has to deliver. And we are in very tough economic times, but it is a matter of priorities. It's a matter of priorities whether you're going to put another polygraph examiner at the London office or whether you're going to hire a PR person in Columbus. It's a matter of priorities as to whether you're going to add that second or third or fourth DNA analysis that might speed up that B&E DNA that we're waiting on. It's a matter of priorities where you're going to spend that money and whether you're going to have that additional drug analyst over there so we can get to those defendants quicker. And that's why I believe, and Mike DeWine, he understands that because he's a prosecutor. He's been a prosecutor. He has been in the exact same spot that every other prosecutor in this room has been in, and that's in front of a jury. In front of juries who expect and demand all of the information. And those folks from BCI, who I consider my colleagues, who I have the utmost respect and admiration for, they need some help. And I think Mike DeWine will deliver that help to them. And I think in doing so, the citizens of this state will be extraordinarily well served. And with that, I'd like to introduce my next door neighbor, Miami County Prosecutor Gary Meisel.
Good morning. I am Gary Meisel. I'm Miami County Prosecutor. I've been serving as the elected prosecutor since 1995. I'm one of the few people, if not the only person in this room, that doesn't have anything bad to say about BCI and I, because I don't use them in Miami County. In Miami County, we use the Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab. And the Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab is one of the shining examples of the efficiencies that can be achieved in the area of forensics crime lab operation. You've heard the tales from my colleagues about drug time turnarounds taking as much as 90 days when we have a 90-day speedy trial limit. The average turnaround on a drug case from Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab is 14 days. Computer forensics, one of my colleagues indicated that it takes them a year or better to get any computer forensics back. Well, Senator DeWine worked with the FBI and the Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab to bring a regional task force to a lab in Centerville, and that task force is one of 14 across the country. The turnaround time for computer forensics at that lab is 30 to 45 days, and when there's a child at risk, it's 7 days. DNA tests are back in 36 days on average. It's a service that we pay for in Miami County, unfortunately. We would like to be able to avail ourselves of the services of BCI and I because they do have qualified people, they do have good people, and they do good work on those rare occasions when I've been involved with them. Unfortunately, they can't get the kind of turnaround that's needed for us to successfully prosecute cases because of speedy trial, and because of that, we are using the Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab. We would certainly achieve some economies by being able to use BCI and I. It's a no-fee service, and as I said, I and the agencies that use Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab pay for that service. But fortunately, up to this point, even with the declining economy, the agencies that I'm involved with have thus far been able to afford the services of Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab, and we've not had the problems. We are not suffering under the speedy trial problems that are facing so many other jurisdictions. Don't get me wrong, we're suffering from the same onslaught of opiate cases, property crimes related to drug trafficking, child pornography, sexting, texting, all of those kinds of things. Just like every other county in the state of Ohio, we see those crimes on a constant increase, and therefore the demands of scientific evidence grow ever greater on us. As Steve pointed out, the CSI effect in front of juries is huge. Juries expect in every kind of case to know that you've made the effort to evaluate the evidence in a scientific fashion. If you don't do so, there's going to be serious questions and it's going to affect your verdicts. So I'm here to tell you that there are efficiencies, there are methods of operating laboratories that can serve the needs of the public and prosecutors. I know that Senator DeWine is committed to obtaining those efficiencies. We've talked in detail about the methodology for management that has been used at BCI as compared to the Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab. It's not that Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab has such tremendous assets and resources that outstrip those of BCI and I. It's the way in which they process materials and the way, the efficiencies that they run their office with. If you look at the number of cases that are completed by analysts on the drug cases, I think we saw somewhere around a 3-to-1 ratio being completed by those technicians at BCI or MVRPC, or Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab, as compared to those at BCI and I. It can be done. I know the senator's committed to it. That's why I'm committed to him. Now I'd like to introduce to you Madison County Prosecutor Steve Brown.